oh no, Star Trek 4 is dead again, or still dead, however you want to put it. Wait a minute, there only was a Star Trek 4. Yes, but that's a whole other universe at this point. Now, there's been a Star Trek 4 talked about for quite some time. The original one was supposed to be Chris Hemsworth coming back to play George Kirk, and they were going to have a time travel story in which Kirk could meet his father. Well, both Hemsworth and Pine walked because Star Trek 4 no longer had the investors for it because of the failure of Star Trek Beyond, and the franchise was dead in the water. Even though Star Trek Beyond is not really to blame, it was the previous film. Yeah, sound familiar? That's Star Wars? Yeah. But no, Into Darkness kind of ruined the whole thing, and it's too bad because that was a very good cast, and they were just wasted. They got one really good movie and then a sort of so-so movie in Beyond, but Beyond, that was too late. If Beyond had been the second movie, maybe they'd been better off. I don't know. But it didn't work out that way. And so they walked and they said, hey, that's not the money we agreed to. And they said, yeah, but could you take a pay cut? No, can't. So that was it. They didn't have the investors. And, well, what do you do? So that all went up in smoke. So then Star Trek 4 was dead. But then all of a sudden we got a mention that Noah Hawley was interested in doing a Star Trek movie. And that, he was going to take over. Well, it turned out not to be all that. I think that was just leaked out there because of the investors again, that this would garner interest, that you can show that there's interest in Star Trek and excitement, and that so they leaked this out, even though they hadn't really been in talks. They're bounding into comics here, referring back to a previous article where they talk about it. And he's talking about what he loved about Star Trek. He loved Next Generation. He loved the scene where Kirk needed his glasses in Wrath of Khan to lower Khan's shields and all that. And talking about this is the type of scenarios he was more interested in. And he says he wasn't interested in action so much as he was interested in these elements of Star Trek. But he also said, it's early days. I'm still talking with Paramount, and I have a take, and I got to write a script. Well, that was then. This is now. The current rumor is saying the film is now dead. No! The rumor leaked to 4chan and subsequently shared to Twitter by angry Mr. Flibble. Well, here we go again with Mr. Flibble. Mr. Flibble strikes again. Says Hawley turned in a script, but it was deemed too Trekky. You can't do Star Trek. We want a Star Trek film. But that script sounds too much like Star Trek. So Paramount thought it was too Trekky and rejected it. So the tweet went, 4chan leaks for Star Trek 4. I've lost count of how many times the next movie has been announced and canned at this point. Yeah. So they keep doing details like that. Leaking them out in the hopes that would gain some interest. Then you got to get to the actual deal. So apparently he did write a script, but it was too much like Star Trek. Another little tidbit here. The rumor adds that Paramount officials were also reportedly enraged. It shared a lot of similarities to the Orville. Oh, man. Yeah, that's got to burn. The Orville, which they see as an inferior competitor that nonetheless is eating up their market share. You're in the state now, Star Trek, where the parody is more beloved than yours. Well, it could be worse. It could have been the porn parody was more popular. And may yet be. I don't know. Is there one? The script was reportedly set in the canonical timeline and not the Bad Robot timeline. It would also expected to feature a mostly new cast. Okay, so initially they announced Hawley, and then they said, like Chris Pine and the rest of the cast are expected to return. Well, were they? No, it wouldn't seem so if they're going to be in the original timeline and that you would get a new cast. Now, does that mean he's going to reboot it with his own recasted Kirk, or he say like Next Generation and recast a Next Generation cast. I don't think so. I don't think they would like that idea. Maybe that was a stickler to it. But it says Orville and Star Trek being the problem. It's too much like Orville in that Star Trek show. But the thing they're hoping for the Picard series to save the whole franchise here, and it's really not up to the task. It's the best they've done so far, but it's it's not going to do it. But at the same time, you wouldn't want to have a feature film with your other Picard and then your series Picard. I mean, it's doable, but I just don't think they would go for it. But probably better yet is that, yes, it's set in the canonical timeline, but it's further in the future. It's the future beyond the Next Generation era. And that is what Discovery should have been, but with that writers, it would have messed it up anyway. But you got way more wiggle room there. You still have some limitations because of canon, but it's the future. There's a lot you can do, and who's to say it's not what the future beyond Next Generation would be? You really can't say. And so he could have done all kinds of wonders. But apparently Holly says he walked away since he feels the whole thing is a waste of time if he isn't allowed to direct the film he wants to make. Yeah. Now, there's two possibilities: that they were really upset with the script because it's Orville. I guess it was a funny script, but also maybe it cost a little too much because they really don't have the money for it. So, yeah, once again, Star Trek 4 is dead, and that's too bad because Hawley is a talented writer, a very creative man. He doesn't always hit home runs, but it was the one thing that gave me some amount of excitement because for a while there, I just wasn't really interested. And I thought, oh, this might be something intriguing here. And it hadn't even really started. It was just a leak in the hopes that it garnered enough interest to where investors would look to funding that film. And that didn't happen. So the other film, Quentin Tarantino's Star Trek, that's already pretty much been done away with. I mean, again, here he says, I think I'm steering away from Star Trek, but I haven't had an official conversation with those guys yet. Yeah, so there was nothing ever official. He was toying with the idea, but that was about it. And he even said that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood could be his last movie. And with the way Hollywood is these days, probably a wise decision. So, yeah, that's just terrible. So, Holly's been canceled. And again, a source told us back in January the film was also dead in the water due to a number of investors pulling out of the project. Yeah. And that is probably the main reason. There just isn't money there to make the movie with the cost it would take to make a science fiction film like that. I guess they're pinning all their hopes on the Transformers franchise being rebooted again, and they don't have the money to spare for another franchise, I guess. I don't know. Another problem is they can't get anybody to take up the license fee for merchandising. But I thought the show was back in form and it's so popular. Yeah, well, you got to sell that plastic crap to make up for it, and they're not selling anything from what I can see. So that's too bad. That's just too bad. Anyway, thank you for watching and listening. Say, why not like and subscribe, and check out that link description below. That'll take you to my many stores that have plenty of goodies for you. And you can hop over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book. Yes, Night Night, based on my Night audio plays. Yeah, check that out. And you can listen to the Mr. Nailsin Show podcast over at RadioMisfits.com. New episodes every Saturday. And you can also watch my videos at BitChute. That's the Mr. Nailsin channel on BitChute.com.